Hello and welcome back to me playing Oxygen Not Included. In the last episode, I completed all the tasks for the Gravitas shipping container. And the dupe that was there, the Hermit, has joined our team. And one of the tasks was to increase decor, so I built a lot of gold around here. So I tore that down to get the gold back. So really, it's just a big, crazy storage container that you can plug in with lights if you want. But on the other hand, because I did this early, this is the dupe here. George, they have, let's go to the priorities view. Go down to George. They have 7 skills to everything except for 15 with medicine, so they're good with that, so they can heal. They're above the skill set of a lot of the other dupes, except for athletics. The other dupes can run a little bit faster, but this dupe is actually kind of worth having because they've got 7 skill point at this point of the game. Let's just have a look at the overall base, what I've been up to last little bit. So I built this enclosed telescope to look at the star map. I was hoping one of these 2 points would have been another asteroid to get to. They're not, so we'll have to go look at some other options if we want to explore any other places. At this point, that means I don't need this. This is area complete, so I'm going to destruct this. I've been adding solar panels, and we're continuing to add that left and right to increase the amount of power. In the last episode, brought heavy watt wire down from that, so I'm not limited to the number of solar panels. And I've avoided having heavy watt wire go through the core living area of my base. It's just a power room and some heavy industrial areas within the base that have access to that. I'm thinking about long-term food, and I want to grow some sleet wheat. So digging out some areas for that. I was going to put it at the bottom of the base, but that's way too cold because I have a frozen core. I need minus 55 or higher, so that I decided the top left is where I'm going to put that. Found one mistake I have made. In the last episode, was worried, or maybe it was the episode before, but I was worried about the amount of water I had because I was trying to warm up ice. Now I have enough water, but in part of my panics, I increased the temperature to 50 degrees. So I turned that off. So this aqua tuner, or liquid temporizer rather, is only running if the temperature gets below 20 degrees. So that had too strong of a heating effect. Not really going to be a problem given the fact that you can see I've got cold temperatures all around me. Long term, that would have been a very bad thing. But yeah, so I'm going to let that heat just keep the base warm and hope that I even remove some of the insulation just to take in some of the cooling. And then the final thing that I've been up to is digging out some of the geysers, because that's one of the things that you can do in hot shots that I haven't experimented with yet, is to increase the amount of material. Here is one of the dupes mole. We'll see if we can watch as they make their way to discovering what this particular geyser is. Looks like it's going to be water-based one. So that is a hot water, 95 degrees. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, water geyser HW33-0 Anyway, I'll choose one of those. There's another one that's around here. Here's the polluted water, a cool slush geyser. And I even done the analysis of that. So that's one thing that I could do. The other thing is I want to experiment with the laboratory room. So that's just an introduction to what I've been up to in the last little bits. Let me look around, make a plan, and I'll show you my next few projects for this base. Producing a bit of ethanol. There's various different use cases for that, and specifically having liquid go through really cold areas, because that ethanol doesn't freeze until minus 114 or so degrees. So having that as a sort of temperature exchange in a really cold area may be very useful, specifically given the fact that I kind of heated up my base accidentally It could very well be very useful to have that. Now that's going to require wood. That is, I knew that was going to be, I'm going to be wanting to produce ethanol in the past, so I'm growing a excess number of trees than is necessary for my pips, so that I can start to produce some lumber, because that's the input to the ethanol distillery. You give this little bit of lumber, and ethanol is the output. So that's going to be going down there. I also, and speaking of ethanol, I changed my mind on the location of Sleet Wheat. Decided I am going to put it down here after all, but I'm going to have to warm this area up, and that's partly why the ethanol is going to be used, because I can take this really cold stuff and exchange it up here, because I don't have, in this zone, I don't have anything that is below minus 114, so ethanol is not going to freeze when it's down here. So I have a neural vacillator. Decided that Mole's going to get that. They're out doing a lot of digging away from the amenities of the base, so having them do that. I was measuring some things with putting some supercomputers down by accident, so get my dupes to remove that. But anyway, I should see Mole arrive up there soon. The other thing is, I decided I'd like to go after some, make sure I don't forget about Mole that's heading there. But I decided before I do anything else, next focus is going to be making plastic. So crude oil is what I want to get after. I've got some here, make this out of gold amalgam, though things are cold enough, probably not necessarily. Okay, let's go check on Mole, not let them freeze. If they're there, well, no, they're not. Okay, I wish it alerted you a little bit more when someone arrived at either the teleportation or those neural vacilators, just because it can be quite dangerous, because the dupe will just stay there, they'll starve, they'll run out of oxygen, they'll freeze. In the meanwhile, you have no idea that they're struggling. So again, whoops, remind myself, Mole is on their way there. Let's keep the rest of the dupes busy. I'll be back. Assign to Mole. It's usually a high priority. There we go. Mole is on the way. And they're just going to jump over a few things. They've got a mask on. That's going to be fine. So I'm hoping, well, we'll see what we end up with. Doesn't really matter. Complete neural process. Sunny disposition. Actually, that's pretty good stress reduction, because Mole is the one that's going to be away from the core of the base doing a lot of the digging. They may not have some of the amenities. Certainly their decor is going to be less. They might be the one that would be really good to have, that sunny disposition. Also, forget about that. I'm not getting a lot of oil from this. That's another source for oil, but let's start with the larger cache of oil that I already have access to down here. Just changing out the oxygen filtering system. Right here I've got a gas filter that's consuming power. Building second pump, so I'll have two pumps. That's going to be near the electrolyzer where oxygen is being generated. I'm going to have this actually detect oxygen instead, so this is breathable oxygen it's looking for. And if so, it's going to send oxygen into here. Otherwise, let's just vent it out next to here. So this might be a little bit of hydrogen or carbon dioxide. Most of this I would expect is going to be oxygen that goes through here. I'm also going to tell the pumps to turn off if this thing gets full. So put that like that. I'll have this setting here 50-50. So that's really just going to prevent excess power usage that's constantly running. Not a big deal. I'm generating a significant amount of power, but I figure I might as well put a little bit of power savings in there. Also, it'd be nice to have two pumps to really push the amount of oxygen. I also have to decide at some point when oxygen levels get low here, I need to send oxygen from this out. Currently not doing that because it's not needed. Maybe I'll even put the pump in there in the meantime, or the piping rather. Just so that'll exist before things get too bad in the future. Because at some point, all the mud and polluted dirt and all that's putting out polluted oxygen is going to run out. So we'll have to think about that. And maybe I'll do the same thing. I'll have the pipe, won't necessarily turn it on, but let's have the pipe ready so that if things become urgent and we're short oxygen in the other world, I don't have to put in a lot of infrastructure to get caught up. I'll have these pipes ready to go, even if I'm not going to fully connect it just yet. Decided to let a gold volcano vent a little bit. That's going to produce gold. This is risky business because this is extremely hot stuff that's going to be going out 2,000 or so degrees. So I'm not fully digging this out, but just going to leave it for the time being. If I find things start to heat up too much, I can overflood it with liquid. I just dump some, well, maybe not water, but maybe polluted water or something else on top of it to over pressurize it. But figured, why not get a little bit of gold? I need heat anyways. It's a very cold area. Well, not super in need of heat, but I'll watch this over time to see how that goes. Anytime you're playing with volcanoes, it can be very risky business because of the amount of heat that comes out of it. So the oxygen-based system is now running. I've got oxygen from 2 pumps going in here. It's being filtered. I can see a little bit of carbon dioxide that was picked up. So that's going to be going in. It's going to detect that's not allow it through, and go down here. The only thing that can go wrong is if this becomes overpressured, then that can back up, and I'll slowly be getting non-oxygen elements the way through. So as long as I know that this won't become overpressured, let me maybe just dig out a little bit, that will be okay. So I'm going to increase this to a better high-pressured gas vent eventually, but for now, I'm not expecting that to be a problem. This also gives me the opportunity to build one or even actually 2 more of these, because I've got a lot more stuff going down, being built down here, including a place to process oil. So I've got a pipe, a pump, a pipe, and some power delivered to this liquid pump. We can put that through a oil refinery that I'm going to put up here, and we can start generating some plastic, which will be nice. So putting together the plastic production, I'm going to need to convert crude oil to petroleum. So that's why I've got the oil refinery light, because that's going to be operated by a dupe. So that's going to be stored in a liquid reservoir so that this doesn't turn off and on. I can get this running, fill this up, and then these guys will start producing plastic once that gets access to that petroleum. So I already have crude oil going in. We'll have petroleum going in here and being shared amongst these 2 locations. That's going to drip out a little bit of water, so that's why I put some mesh tiling on them. In fact, it may be necessary to put some there as well. So I'm getting a buildup of carbon dioxide that's coming from the ethanol distillery. That's not a problem in and of itself. It's just the fact that carbon dioxide is actually going up into the base, into these pumps. Part of the problem is the pumps are kind of creating this vacuum that's pulling gases up. So what I want to do, and what I was hoping to do, is build this wide enough. I've dug this out a little bit, but that's still not getting carbon dioxide to go down. So what I'm going to do instead, I'm going to put some more of the mesh tile around here. I'm going to put some pumps down here for carbon dioxide, and we'll send that out in the base. We'll store a little bit of it up here because I'm going to eventually want that for going for traveling in a carbon dioxide engine. I do have to be careful that carbon dioxide does freeze. I see minus 61 degrees. That's going to be a problem for carbon dioxide to be stored in pipes in this area, so we'll try to avoid doing that. Maybe even for the short term, I'll build some in this area. That's not too bad. Maybe before we start sending it up and out, let's store some carbon dioxide locally, just so we can get rid of it that way and use it for rocket travel later on. So my polymer press are now active. I have ability now to deal with the excess amount of carbon dioxide that's building up here. So I've got this pump, I've got this indicating whether oxygen is there, and if it's not, if it's detecting not oxygen, putting that through a filter. Maybe I'll up that to say about a minute or so. If that's the case, this pump will turn on and push carbon dioxide, maybe a little bit of natural gas as well, into these containers. Get it out of there. Certainly want to avoid this from happening. And I think I'll try turning this back on so we can get a little bit more ethanol, a little bit more than half full of this container. Oh my goodness, what is overheating damage? Gold amalgam, already 136. Wow! Okay, I was not expecting that. Well then, and I'm in a very cold environment, and yet these things are overheating. Huh. Quite surprised. I'm gonna have to disable them. And think about how to handle this situation. Okay, I guess carbon dioxide is not my only issue with these guys. I'll have to think about this one. Was quite surprised to see this overheating in such a cold environment. So the surrounding temperature is, I mean, it's in the negative. So we're just gonna, I've turned this one back on, just one of them. Just as test, I installed a temp shift plate behind it. We'll see if that makes any difference. It is not. I can see 52, 53, 54. I'm already gonna tell the dupes. Disable that building. Otherwise it's gonna overheat. I think I'm gonna need liquid cooling. I'm gonna have to put liquid on top of this guy. It's just not interacting with the environment to cool it off quick enough to be able to actually not burn out. So I will choose a new location and I'll try doing it liquid-based cooling, which I was surprised to have to do in such a cool environment, but I don't know if this is, anyone else notice a change with polymer presses? Because I'm pretty sure I've kind of run this environment, not have it heat up. Certainly not that quick. That's very, very fast. Well, maybe that's a new item in the game, maybe not, but either way, I'm going to move these guys somewhere else where I can do water-based cooling or liquid-based cooling anyway. And that's not going to be right here. So this is my second attempt at running the polymer press. It is looking much healthier this time. Let's see, I've got a pipe blocked here. What is that? Carbon, there's just way too much carbon dioxide. That being the case, if I'm saving a little bit, it may just be time where I really just have to send the excess over to be pumped out into space. So we'll do that now. I'll build a pipe that goes out. Let's just go ahead. Put it right here. I'll build the bridges later. It's a hydrogen line. Let's decide what side we want. Actually, let's go over on the left side maybe. The only thing I have to be careful of is if it gets too cold, minus 60, yeah, that will be a risk. So I'm going to have to insulate a pipe at this point. transport it up here and exhaust it right there. So this is the that's an old oxygen line that used to be used. So I'll take that, change that out for now, because I can't keep building gas reservoirs to store more carbon dioxide. But it looks like this is what was needed. I didn't have to change the location. I just need to bring liquid in. Water was a bit of an issue because it might freeze, but that's why I brought in polluted water. That has the disadvantage that it's going to dissipate as polluted oxygen, but I just kind of wanted to do a test. I could have used the ethanol. But anyway, I'll leave it like that for now and maybe switch to ethanol if need be later on. But yeah, that is looking much better. I'll wait and see if what it looks like when the two of them are running. But yeah, these guys definitely need liquid. Now they output water, and that doesn't have a place for this to drain. But I think this is going to be a good short-term solution, given the fact that how much heat these things produce and don't dissipate the heat well with the actual carbon dioxide that's around there. But this will at least allow me to generate plastic for the short term. I'm going to try and dump some more polluted. I don't have very little bit, but actually a very small amount seems to be doing the trick. So maybe I don't need any more than just 10 or so kilograms. So I'm now venting carbon dioxide out at the top of the base. It's going through insulated pipes so the carbon dioxide doesn't freeze within there. The first thing that I've used with plastic is changing this out to have a high pressure vent. That way this doesn't get backed up with non-oxygen and send a little bit of non-oxygen down this pipe, causing damage to some of my machinery. Let's have a look at the polymer press now. They are currently 15.7, going down a little bit. So they're going up and down, maintaining a much healthier temperature this time round. Okay, so note to self, always, if I don't put them in a steam room with steam turbine above them, put them in a place where they have access to liquid so that it interacts with the liquid for temperature exchange rather than gases. But that's going to now allow me to produce plastic, which is nice. So that'll run for a bit. Now I'll go and make a plan for what my next action is going to be. So the oxygen situation isn't that great, and it's not a shortage of water. So I built a additional electrolyzer, so that is up there producing a little bit more oxygen, hoping that's going to push some of this non-oxygen gases down. But in addition to that, instead of venting carbon dioxide down here, kind of continuing the problem and buildup of natural gas and carbon dioxide, I'm going to start venting that all out in space. Basically, if you're not oxygen, just get out of here for now. Because if I keep doing that, the carbon dioxide keeps coming down here and getting into the pipe and kind of going in a cycle. So I want to break that cycle with this. So now I am producing plastic. I can build stuff with it. Transit tube is going to be built next. I'm going to build that at the bottom of my base and drop that off right about here. And I've got big plans down here. I want to grow slate wheat. Hope I don't regret this. This area is currently too cold, but I plan to warm it up by initially I'm going to build some insulation here, maybe some insulation here. I'm going to run ethanol line around here and vent that or connect that with a liquid area. Maybe I'll start with this cache over here, minus 11, and see if I can get this temperature to rise at least above minus 55 degrees. So it's going to be a bit time before that runs. I could just let this run for a while. One thing I may want to do is actually remove the ice. This is a big project. And but what I'm going to get out of it is essentially a lot of wild plants, and I don't need to worry about the input, dirt and farming and all that type of thing. I'll just get free sleet wheat out of it once it's all planted by the pips, but also once I warm this up. So it's going to be a big undertaking. But to speed up the process of construction, I'm going to build the transit tube first, so that when the dupes are down here building pipes and other things, they'll be able to have a transit system to get back up. So the dupes are continuing to work on the transit tube while plastic is being made. Start the process of installing a granite pipe that goes all the way through here. So this is going to go ethanol. In the far future, this ethanol is actually going to be cooling off very slowly, but auto sweepers and other machinery that's running this area, making sure that this never gets above freezing where ice can melt. But oddly, it's actually going to have a warming effect to increase this this area. But yeah, I can't quite get the transit tube built just yet because I need more plastic, but that will be there in time. So I've got to work on more than one project at a time, because this is going to be such a long-term project that it's kind of, at some point I'm going to want to put it on the back burner. So I think it's time to build a rocket for the first time. So I'll go up in space and construct that. We have to decide where we want to go. Actually, I guess I'll need to make a telescope and find out which one of these question marks is actually an asteroid. Maybe that's the first mission I have. The other thing is I could do more advanced research with creating more data banks. But I'll start with a basic telescope on a rocket. So the last piece is being put on the transit tubes. The transit tube is now functional. It's going to be able to take dupes from the bottom of the world and put it in the center base. And that was done by the Hermit, George. So, and we're seeing them use the transit tube for the first time. So now they're able to go up much faster. So that's going to help with construction down on the bottom part of my base. Now, with the plastic that I'm going to be getting from now on, I'll want to make a transit system that's going to go from here somewhere in the center of the base and have that get drop off dupes somewhere up at the top. Just make it easier to get them to do stuff in space. Now the other thing is, I noticed that the fridges are full. They're full of sleet wheat, because that's taking up a lot of space. So what I decided I'm going to do is I'm going to put a conveyor rail right here, or loader right here. It's going to need some power, but I'll instead of getting the dupes to take sleet wheat in the fridge, and the fridges are full right now, so they're not going to take it to the fridge, but I'll get this to load it in here, and this is going to send sleet wheat up and drop it off right here where it'll be frozen. And I can empty these fridges knowing that the dupes will put all other materials in it except for sleet wheat, and I can have the sleet wheat side of things automated, because right now the sleet wheat here is at risk of going bad. I don't want that to happen. Now here's the sleet wheat operating. It's taking that sleet wheat, so the dupes don't have to do this anymore. Now it's going to be dumped right here, and I no longer need to tell the fridges to store sleet wheat and have the dupes drop that. That's going to allow more fridge space for other foods where sleet wheats are automatically going to be dropped there due to this. So that is a good thing. The only exception is maybe I might get a little bit of sleet wheat from this that's no longer going to be dropped off there. But by far, the only sleet wheat that's coming from the other asteroid is wild, and maybe I'll just stop harvesting it from them altogether for that matter. So I think that's going to be it for this episode. I think the biggest surprise is the polymer press. I did not expect that they really need liquid underneath it in such a cold environment. It's like minus 20 or so degrees, and they're not happy when in that, unless they have a little bit of liquid. So they're running good now. Oxygen level in this area is much better. Fixed some of the issues I've had before. These pumps are more likely just to bring in oxygen. That's good. I got this new transit tube that's going at the bottom of the base, and I've got this long-term project. We're doing some insulation here. I've got some I'm gonna have this ethanol line running around. This is going to actually do two things. One, long term, I'm going to have sleet wheat grow here wild with the help of pips. And the ethanol that's going to run in here is going to help warm it up. But it's also going to take this coldness, allow me to do something with it. Now, this is an asteroid that's quite cold, so it's. I'll just realize quickly that probably should get access to this. Maybe we'll dig that out and do that in the next episode. But yeah, not that I really need to do that because it is excessively cold here anyways, but I am going to be starting to produce steel, and that's going to produce a lot more heat. So I do need to interchange with this, with the cold world. Maybe I'll do that with ethanol when this is in need of cooling, which kind of is right now, 34 degrees. I produced a little bit of iron, and I haven't done steel yet, but I'll be doing that shortly, probably in the next episode. The other bit is I guess I don't have a platform right now, but very soon we'll have a platform, and we'll have a rocket sent out and start exploring around this asteroid. And when I do get that, I'm definitely going to be getting the new room, the laboratory, to help with that. And at some point, I'm going to be experimenting with geysers to try to increase the amount of material that I get from those with it, which is part of the Hot Shots update. Anyways, thank you for watching, and I will see you in a future episode where I continue on and expand this space and try some of the new features of Hot Shots. Oh. Snazzy violet suit. Choose one of the dupes. Have access to that in a little bit. Alright, see ya.